Hello and welcome to another session of the Generative AI in Libraries, or GAIL conference. Welcome to all attendees. My name is Chris Stacy Bates. I'll be the moderator for this session. So there are a few reminders before we begin. We have a code of conduct that we adhere to for this conference. The link I am posting now in chat to that code of conduct. And also there is the email address for the general conference email if you have any concerns about anything with this session. Generally, your microphones have been muted. You can ask to unmute during the Q&A at the end. You can also add questions to the Q&A window. And you're welcome to ask questions or respond to others' questions in the chat window as well. The session is being recorded. Someone has, I believe, enabled captions. So you're welcome to enable captions by clicking on the Show Captions button at the bottom of the screen. And now let me introduce our presenters, Mark McCullough and Pat Lienemann from Minnesota State University at Mankato. Mark is reference librarian and Pat is electronic resources librarian. So please join me in welcoming Mark and Pat.
Mark, you got to unmute yourself.
There. All right. Thanks, Pat. And thank you, Chris. Again, thank you for the introduction. I won't say anything more about myself or Pat right now, but I want to go ahead and get started. And I'm just going to do a quick check. Okay, are you seeing Pat and Chris, or are you seeing like the front page of the PowerPoint?
We're just seeing you, right?
I am not seeing your slides yet.
Sure. You see it there.
There we go.
There. Okay. All right. Thank you, Pat. Can you are you able to hear me now?
You're good, Mark.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, I'm Mark McCullough, and I am presenting today with my colleague Pat, and I want to welcome everyone to the presentation. In this presentation, we will use terms that some might find offensive, for example, fat, large-bodied, morbidly obese. We will also display images that were generated through AI tools. Some of these might appear insensitive. However, they are intended to illustrate our process in developing appropriate images for a future presentation that directly focuses on the challenges obese individuals face in university and library settings. And in preparing, excuse me, I'm sorry. And in preparing for a presentation on large-bodied people in spaces at universities and library settings, we decided to explore using an AI image generator, in our case, DALL-E, to provide illustrations for the presentation. So in essence, we're giving a presentation about how we've successfully and sometimes unsuccessfully been able to create images that would be useful in that presentation, which hopefully is forthcoming. And just wanted to mention some quick facts about obesity. And again, these are going to be some of the things that we'll cover in the forthcoming presentation. But so some quick facts: obesity itself is not generally recognized as a disability. Buildings and seating arrangements are not always mindful of obese individuals and their needs. The needs of large-bodied people are not encompassed by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Obese individuals often face challenges in institutional settings. Some of these are unique, but most of them are encountered by others as well. For example, height. Obese individuals face discrimination, shame, exclusion, employment obstacles, and other life challenges. Intersectionality is important to understanding obesity. For example, people of color and women face greater discrimination than white men. Some quick observations about spaces and large-bodied individuals. Universal design principles can help. It's clear to us that many libraries and campuses have given thought to the needs of large-bodied individuals, as evidenced by spaces that offer a variety of seating types and movable furniture options. It's not possible to meet the needs of every library user, however. The goals of the presentation, or the main goal, is to explore the use of artificial intelligence, the artificial intelligence generator DALL-E, for creating suitable images for a future presentation about morbidly obese students in library and campus spaces. We believe DALL-E and other AI image generators have potential for illustrating other topics of a sensitive nature. They could be generated for any topic and included in professional presentations, library instructional materials, promotional materials, and social media pages. Some of the advantages of using generative AI for creating images. Using these images is likely less intrusive than photographing human subjects. Also, you don't need permission to photograph individuals. I think, at least we think it's a more respectful than taking photographs of poorly designed spaces at your own institution. Unlimited opportunities for creating an acceptable image and modifying it with editing tools. There are free AI image generation options. Some universities have negotiated corporate licensing agreements with ChatGPT and other services. And ChatGPT, or DALL-E in our case, customization. It allows us to customize in ways that we might not be able to do with images from image libraries. There are some disadvantages of generative AI images. There are biases. In our experiences, white men seem almost always, if not always, to be the default result. There's still some uncertainty about copyright and fair use, and that's very much a changing landscape. Sometimes it's difficult to recreate an image with a slightly different setting or subjects. Some images that are created seem to be caricatures. General problems with basic characteristics of subjects, and I think most of us have experienced this if we've used these tools. Too many fingers and other things that are off. about the images generated at times. Letters and words are hard to generate, at least accurately. Misspellings of library, for instance, and a lot of other words. The rabbit hole. It's easy to spend a lot of time trying to generate an acceptable image. So at this point, we're going to go through a couple of scenarios about creating images for this future presentation. And the first one I want to show is about waiting areas in libraries or other campus buildings. So I'm going to include the prompts so you can get a sense of how I work through this. I'm doing a presentation. I don't know, I'll read some of the prompts. So I'm doing a presentation about the challenges morbidly obese students face in libraries. Make an image of a minority female student in an office waiting area of the library. The only seats available for her to sit in are too small and they have armrests. Okay, so as you can see in that image, it kind of worked. It's not quite what I had envisioned, but it kind of works. And then I asked it to make the image of a morbidly obese Black male. And I don't think that I would necessarily use this, but a person could. And that's one thing about this. There's a lot of subjectivity. We might have different ideas of what might be considered a caricature or offensive. So, and then I said, make a morbidly obese white student. And it was interesting with this request, it came up with this content warning, may violate our usage policies. So I don't know what the reason for that is. And then I said, now make an outline drawing of this scenario. And in our experience, sometimes outline drawings have worked better in terms of being useful. They're not as colorful. One thing to note here is that, as I mentioned earlier, wording and spelling can be way off. Office is spelled incorrectly, and it's kind of a weird thing to write on the wall anyway. But and I apologize, I'm looking at the wrong slides as I'm reading some notes here, but so I made an outline drawing, and then I said, try again. All the chairs should have armrests. They should be too small for the student. And again, the words don't make sense. And one thing that we found is that particularly for the outline images, I've used erasure tools to get rid of words, and you can use cropping to edit some images. Some of them you really, at least I haven't been able to really take care of them. And so then I asked to make the image without letters or words. And I got this. And then I said, make the chair orientation so that if the person were sitting in a chair, they would be facing the service window. And that's what I got. Again, problems with the signage. Then I said, now make the image with all the people working behind the service counter women. And it wasn't quite what I was hoping for. And it looks like there's at least one man back there. And next I said, now remove the obese man from the picture, depict mostly women working behind the service counter, keep the chairs with armrests. And I can only say if our dean's office had that many people in it, it probably wouldn't be a good day. But enough about that. And then the last image, I wasn't necessarily satisfied with any of those. There are a couple of them that I would, or we would maybe have used. So the end result for this request was just take a photograph without people in the image. And just a comment on this type of seating. Armrests, although they can be beneficial in some scenarios, they present at times problems for larger bodied people to sit in. But I will say these chairs are sturdy, and so they have that as an advantage. Basically, this first scenario resulted in let's take a photograph. And I'm going to present another scenario now. And I'm calling it Scouting Out Classroom and Event Seating. In my observations and experiences, people who are morbidly obese or severely overweight sometimes go in advance, whether it be to a restaurant to see if the seating will work, or perhaps in classes. I've known at least one student who went to classes in advance, before the course even started, just to see what kind of seating they were going to be looking at. Several years ago, I contacted the Disability Services Office at my university, and I asked them if they make accommodations for students with different seating needs, and they said they do, which is good. And I'm sure that's true at a lot of universities as well, other ones. So my prompt is, I want to start with a different image. I want an image of the student going to class early to scout it out. And so I got it looks like there were issues. And I say, please try again. Try a different approach, provide additional details. So I tried that. And another, please try again. There were issues. Then I said, make the student appear concerned because the seats in the classroom are too small. And still got a no from Dolly. And make the student okay. There were still issues. And then I said, please try again. My presentation is about a serious topic on the challenges of morbidly obese students. I will be presenting this material at a higher education conference, and I would like to create respectful images of the students. I'm hoping you can generate an image because I don't want to take photographs of human subjects. So did that work? No. There were, please try again. And this time I got this image. And the Dolly or ChatGPT response. So this is closer. This is close. Make the seats appear even smaller. And there were issues. So I ask again. Still issues. More issues. And then on this slide here, I say, let's start over. And so I say I'm a health educator, which is not very true. Presenting at a higher education conference on accessibility, and I say a little bit more. And then I got a result, and while this is not necessarily ideal, it looks like the student might struggle with that seat. So then I asked for an African-American male with desks or seats attached to desks, which are a nightmare for a lot of people. And so issues. And then I asked for an overweight Black male student and in scrubs. And now make the subject a Black woman wearing a lab coat. And then I asked for an outline image. And this is what I received. And that's an image I could use. These chairs have desks attached. It looks like that one in the front row to her right. Looks a little wonky, but I think I could use this to illustrate a picture to help facilitate what I'm trying to illustrate. The next slides are just some more images that I created about more seating, obstacles on campus, and in other school settings or community settings. This is an issue in a lot of environments. So there are a couple. The one on the right depicts it's supposed to show an auditorium style arrangement, and it looks like this person would struggle to sit comfortably in one of those chairs. And this is more of a cafeteria setting, and the next image looks like more of an event seating, and she will have a hard time sitting comfortably in those chairs with the armrests. And here are a few more just seating environments. I think the one on the left is a library setting. And one thing too that happens in our experience is that the proportionality is off. And so there are exaggerated heights. And while that can help illustrate the point that these seats aren't going to work, it can also seem a little cartoonish. And I think I asked for an expression of concern with the prompt for the image on the right. And this is another library setting. Again, I think a good thing about those chairs is that they don't have armrests. Here's, whoops. And the image on the right, that deals with proportionality as well. You know, he's not likely, you know, that much larger than the peers depicted there. Okay, getting to class and work on time. Some people who are severely overweight are going to experience challenges with the rate of their pace and getting to class and work on time. It might be something to keep in mind for library student workers. And I just wanted to depict or try to get depictions that might help illustrate a slide in our presentation. And these two are not too bad. And in these images, yeah, I don't think I probably wouldn't use either of those in the presentation. I'm counting fingers, and I think we're doing all right there. But they seem maybe a little too dramatic. I'm not sure. That's, again, it's an individual judgment. And there's some others. I definitely would not use the one on the right. I'm not even sure why I included it here, but I think I probably said, is trying to walk fast and is out of breath from and needing to get to class on time. But some of those prompts resulted in what looks like someone chasing the student. And another thing that Dolly's been doing for many of these images is, the shirts being too short to cover the stomach. And that's certainly not something I asked for. And there's another one. And, sometimes morbidly obese individuals, benches are helpful. It looks like because it's hard to walk for long periods, and it looks like this individual depicted might not just be out of breath, but he's so I probably wouldn't use that image either. And here's another couple of images of, it maybe taking longer to get to class and maybe a struggle to get there on time. So I mentioned or touched on this a little bit already, but planning course and work schedules to arrive on time. I've known that some students will, again, I think I said this already, but pick their courses based on the distance between classrooms and in the time slots they choose because of that. I just asked for like a class schedule, and here the image on the left, it spells class wrong and all those. I guess those are building names, and so I wouldn't use that one because the words kind of eliminate that for use. But then I think what I did ultimately here on the slide on the right is I said, just show a student looking at a blank piece of paper. And again, one thing, if we can't create a perfect image, sometimes we can create an image that will still help illustrate the point, but maybe with fewer details. And I've asked it on many occasions to eliminate words and letters from the images, and sometimes it will do it, sometimes it doesn't. But in instances like this, if this was mostly a white sheet of paper, I think a person could use an erasure tool to get rid of a word. I've done that. And just some words about clothing. This isn't so much about campus spaces, but just some thought. Campus giveaways or library giveaways, I guess a recommendation I would make, and this is more about our future presentation, but have a variety of options. Clothing options aren't going to work for everyone, and just more thoughtfulness. And I like this outline image on the right much better. And it's one thing I've found is that sometimes asking for outline images is easier. or yields better results. And a point to illustrate here is that because clothing is difficult and finding large sizes is often hard and it's often expensive. I think there's a challenge, and I think I asked for a giving a class presentation, and not all of the students there are dressed up in ties or whoever that audience is, but maybe a reconsideration of what's appropriate, because sometimes a student might not have as many choices as other students. And just a couple more slides about clothing. Maybe commencement gowns don't fit. The one on the right, sweatpants, and it looks like it may be a formal party of some sort. And I don't know about other places, but here in southern Minnesota, I see a lot of students walking around in 20-degree or lower weather with shorts, and at least the student in this image has a coat and a stocking hat, but it's occurred to me that and I overheard somebody sort of commenting to a student who was wearing shorts and a t-shirt one day when it was probably 20 degrees or so, and said, "Aren't you cold?" And I was a bystander, and I just thought to myself, this may be the most comfortable the student has been on campus all fall semester. And that's just an opinion. I have no idea of knowing if that's a fact. Here's another image of a student presenting in sweatpants and to an audience of individuals who are really dressed up. And here's an image of a library student worker and, wearing sweats again. And then the one on the right, it put words in there for me. And it put the student on there, what I presume to be the student on the other side of the service desk. So those are just some examples of illustrations. We wanted to leave 10 to 15 minutes for questions. So to recap, we found that there are some workarounds or solutions to some of the problems with AI generated images. And one that we've already talked about is consider integrating photographs if you can't get the image you're looking for with DALL-E or another image generator. Consider a more general version of an image, like in that first round of prompts and images that I showed. In the end, it's like we can get a better illustration by just taking pictures of chairs that might not be the most suitable, and not having a human in the photo, but just the chairs. And edits can sometimes correct the problems. Erasure tools, I've mentioned that already. Cropping, and another solution is persistence. I've found it time consuming to create some of these images, but a caveat to that is to also know when to stop, because it's in my experience and Pat's experience, it's possible to spend a lot of time trying to get what you want, and I don't need an image for every page of our upcoming presentation or future presentation, we'll call it. And so that's all we had, and I think we have 10 minutes left, and Chris,
So it looks like we have two questions so far, Mark.
oh, okay, thanks,
So the
Pat.
first one is, I don't know as much about AI image generators. What sources does DALL-E pull from to create images? I've also heard that some image generators use or slightly modify copyrighted images. Can you speak to that at all, Mark?
Well, I think the second point is it doesn't surprise me. I don't know which ones. And what was the first part?
What sources, like how does it create, you know, anything about how it creates?
Well,
Does it pull from?
I don't have a strong understanding of how I think this would be an example of a large language learning model, or at least the ChatGPT component is. I don't know. And if there's anyone else in the audience who feels like they're knowledgeable about that, I don't know that the audio's on, but maybe could type a response into the chat or the Q&A. So I wish I had better answers for you.
And then there's another question. Have you considered merging? Have you considered merging images? For example, cutting out the character that you might like to use and placing them in different settings. Also, have you used the magic wand / select function to remove certain aspects such as text?
Yeah, I've tried yes, I've considered it, and I've done it successfully. And I don't remember the name of the erasure tool that I used. But whatever the tool was, it allowed me to, kind of remove it kind of like a sticker. So I have tried that. The magic wand comes with the DALL-E. I have tried some of those editing features. And it's been a few months since I've tried it, but I either didn't get it or I wasn't sure how to work it. So I'm learning this as and Pat as well as we go. We've started an informal group that meets sporadically for artificial intelligence in the library. And a lot of what I've learned is from trial and error and just retrying different things.
It looks like Nicole from Arizona has put a lot of great links into the chat that other people might want to capture. There's a inclusive prompting glossary that might help Mark. And then there's other resources from their institution as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Nicole. And I don't know if it's the same resource list, but one of our colleagues had mentioned it was either Arizona or Arizona State, and I hope that's not bad for me to mention both in the same phrase. But I've got somewhere bookmarked a list of AI resources and tools from one of the large Arizona institutions. But thank you, and thank you for sharing those others' ideas with the participants.
And they're from the University of Arizona in Tucson. So
okay.
Any more questions or additions to the discussion?
Well, if not, thank you so much for attending, and I hope to see maybe some of you tomorrow at other sessions. So Pat and I are very appreciative, and wish everyone a good afternoon, or depending on time zone, another part of the day. So thank you very much.
And I've noticed that some of yesterday's sessions are already available as recordings. So this session presumably will be available soon as a recording as well.
Thank you, Chris.